What the fuck was that? And I thought #horror was bad. Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be a very special EPiC rant because this is a very, very special movie. Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be shit. Very special EPiC rant. Oh shit. Because this is a very, very special movie. Okay, I don't know what happened there. There was like a weird echo. Anyway, let's get into this. This is going to be for a very special rant, guys, because this is for a very, very special movie. As you guys know, for the 2016 is almost over, and I need to make a worst and best list. And while I'm very excited to make my best list, I'm equally just excited to make my worst list just because I get to rant and I get to get that shit over with. And unfortunately, I could not make that worst list complete without watching a movie, if you even want to call it a movie, that is by far one of the most deplorable, shitty, disgusting things I have ever seen in my life. And that is none other than the movie that you probably haven't even heard of, because it's a very small movie that if you haven't heard of, that's great if you haven't heard of it. And that movie is none other than the Greasy Strangler. Okay, so let's talk about this movie. First of all, this movie, as you guys could tell, is really fucking bad. I mean, this movie is terrible. It's so bad. We're going to get into the plot and things like that. This is not going to be a regularly structured review or anything, because this is not a movie you can talk about in by yourself. This movie's so bad I can't even talk about it by myself. I need people to talk about it with me, because I just can't do this review by myself. I go crazy. I probably go as crazy as the characters in this movie. So let me just introduce my guests. You've seen them before. First of all, here is 22TigerDude.
Hey, what's up?
Anything to say?
Not really. not for this piece of shit movie.
And of course, the man who watched this movie back in October and now is finally getting to review it, Adam Haskell. All right, let's just get right into this, guys, because how did this happen, honestly? How does this shit get greenlit? But things like, I don't know, so many things get pushed back, and how does the interview get banned, but things like this get greenlit? I just don't understand that at all. It seems like a movie that would be completely banned, and for some reason it's fucking not. Now, the plot of this movie, if you even want to say it's the plot, because I honestly don't really know if there's a plot to this movie. Shut the fuck up, Siri. I don't even know if there's a full-on plot to this movie. Essentially, though, we focus on this father and son duo of, I believe, one's named Big Ronnie, and the other one, let me find the names because I knew the names and now I don't know the names. Oh, the other one, of course, is Big Braden. They are a father and son duo who really don't get along very well at all, and basically, Braden starts to like this girl, Janet, and Ronnie quickly falls for her as well in a very weird way. And what Braden doesn't know is that his father, by day, is his father, but at night is this serial killer of sorts called the Greasy Strangler, and the hilarity or disgustingness ensues. I'm not really sure, but that's basically the plot of the movie in a nutshell. But yeah, that's basically what we have to talk about in terms of plot, and just the plot in general. That's not even the real plot of this movie. The plot of this movie is essentially, I'd say, 3 different movies in one, and we're going to talk about that. But just this movie in general, let's just talk about, first of all, let me give you already know my thoughts, so let's just go around the room. Tony, what are your thoughts on the Greasy Strangler before we get into this?
This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. Not just of this year, just ever of the 22 years I've been on Earth watching movies.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then, Adam, what are your thoughts on this movie?
I never thought I would say this. I seriously never thought I would say this, but You guys know how I was tearing apart Dirty Grandpa? Yeah. I kind of like this is worse. This is worse than Dirty Grandpa. This is actually worse.
It really, you guys know I like Dirty Grandpa, so I can say that. But I will say, just like this is worse than Dirty Grandpa, this honestly may be worse than #horror. Honestly, I might have found my new least favorite movie of all time. I really don't know, but they're both very similar in terms of not structured very well at all. And we're gonna get into that. Let's get to the acting because. What acting? What acting is there to talk about here? This isn't acting. This is as deadpan as you can possibly get. And I honestly believe that most of this movie was improv. I mean, none of this seems like this is the way it was supposed to go. Every line seems like they're questioning it. No one really seems to be sincere in what they're really saying. And I don't blame them because the lines in this movie are just so absurd. And you can tell the actors throughout this entire movie are so confused as to what they're doing. And to their credit, I mean, I give them credit for doing all this disgusting shit, but at the same time, have you no standards? Like, the stuff they do in this movie is just insane. I have no idea why someone would sign up to do this unless they're like that low in life and they really want to put their name out there. I understand that. And I'm not saying I don't think these actors could be good. I genuinely think they could be good, but just in something other than this, because they're just not good. I mean, the one who plays Janet, Elizabeth DeRazzo, is actually a well-named actor. She was in Eastbound and Down, and I didn't watch that show, but I looked it up. She's actually a really popular character on that. But even her in this movie seems really confused at what she's saying, and I don't really understand it. The characters in this movie don't even feel like characters. Michael St. Michael's as our main character here, Big Ronnie, it's just so weird in this movie. He has this like grease obsession throughout the movie where constantly he's obsessed with grease and he wants to like have grease on toast. The first scene he's talking about having like grease and coffee. He then covers himself with grease at night and basically tries to obtain as much grease as possible from anyone that he kills, and that right off the bat is weird enough. Then you have the whole factor that he's just walking around butt-ass naked throughout most of this movie. And that, again, is something that is grossing Tony out, as I can see. But I don't blame him because I was just as grossed out throughout the movie. Again, I don't think I don't think he's a bad actor. I just think that he was really, really bad in this, definitely. Sky Elabar as Big Braden was not good at all, in my opinion. I think that he was not miscasted. I just don't think he's a good actor. I don't think there's such a thing as miscast in this movie. He was not good at all. His character made no sense whatsoever. He goes from being the hero of the story to being by far, I think, the most pathetic character in the entire movie. He makes one of the dumbest decisions I have seen in such a long time. Honestly, and we're going to get into that because we're going like full spoilers. This movie, we have to talk spoilers. I mean, this is a movie. You cannot talk about this movie without talking about all the shit that happens here. But he was terrible. Definitely, he really wasn't good. And like I said, Elizabeth DeRazzo is probably the least of the bunch, the least worst, definitely. But she still isn't great at all. I wasn't seeing much emotion from her. She seemed very confused with her lines. And Janet, in general, doesn't really have much of a character. And honestly, this is probably one of the most worst female written characters I've seen in a very long time because she's essentially a sex object throughout the whole movie. She's just there for the two of them to fight over to have sex, for Ronnie to rub grease all over her tits and shit, and for Braden to talk about how he's a virgin and all this stuff like that. And none of it really goes together at all. These three are some of the worst performances I've seen in a very long time, and that's really what I have to say. But Tony, do you want to say anything about the acting? If you can talk about the acting.
I'll try my best, but you know, like Kevin said, he did make a good point. These could be good actors. The woman that played Janet, I was looking at IMDb. She was apparently from that movie, The 33, last year, which I thought was an okay movie.
Oh, really?
But yeah, but these actors, other than her, I haven't really been familiar with the other two. But like I said, with good material, I'm sure they could be good. But with the horrendous, and I do mean the horrendous material brought to them in this film, they were really, really terrible. I don't even think terrible describes them. I think there's a worse word than terrible. I'll say abysmal. Like, I really think it's that bad of acting. Like, it could be intentional acting, but either way, I thought it was very, very abysmal. I thought with the material they were given, there was no way that their acting could just save just the embarrassing, disgusting, just such horrible material. So, no, I did not think any of the acting was good in this film.
Yeah, really, really bad. Adam, do you have anything to say about the acting?
It all sucks. None of them are good. I know it's like, I think this is actually intentionally bad acting. I think I heard that somewhere, that this acting is intentionally bad. This movie's supposed to be intentionally shit or whatever. And I don't care if this movie's intentionally
we're going to talk about that.
I really don't. Like, it's a terrible movie. Like, even if it's intentionally shit, I'm not going to give it a pass. It's a gross movie. Sure. The acting is terrible all around. No one's good. Like, it's just, there's nothing to this movie. There's no real moral. There's nothing. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really bad, definitely. But let's get into what Adam just said, because as bad as the acting is, holy shit, the directing in this movie. I mean, talk about a horribly structured directing and very off-kilter pace. I mean, this movie has no direction. I'm going to say that right now. I know this movie had direction. This movie does not have, very conclusive direction. This is a direction that's very sporadic. It changes a lot throughout the movie, and it's some of the worst direction I've seen in a very long time. Look, I understand they wanted to make this movie as bad as possible, but that doesn't mean it's going to be good. I mean, if you're making a movie bad, it's going to be bad. You have to have that in the back of your mind that, yeah, this is going to be bad. The only reason you make a movie bad is if you're like Adam, who's making this movie for cheap on YouTube, and you're just doing it for fun to make fun of it with your friends. You know, that stuff is funny. We talk about like the Batman Cookie 2. That stuff's funny.
Or unless you make sorry to interrupt, or unless you make an intentionally bad movie, but you make it entertaining, not being grossed out and just feeling dirty and violated watching it, you know? Make it entertaining. Don't gross out your audience.
Yeah, and there can be like intentionally bad movies that are supposed to be bad. Like a lot of the old parody movies, hell, like Airplane, things like that, are so deadpan and they're supposed to be stupid and they work because they're funny. There's nothing funny here. There's nothing funny happening in this movie. If there is, I mean, if you're a sick fuck, then yeah. But if you're not a sick fuck, then there's nothing funny in this movie, really, honestly. I couldn't laugh. The only time I laughed was like because the actors were like cracking clearly. I mean, there are times where the actors are cracking because this directing is just horrible, really. I mean, the movie starts off as a very indie, very low budget type indie comedy. Then it turns into this horror gross out fest. And I guess there's like a romance in there, and none of these things go together at all. I really think that it was very misplaced. I don't think any of the elements work together. And I think you will definitely agree with me on that, Tony.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, it's very, very misplaced.
If we talk about the cinematography?
Oh yeah, we'll definitely get into that. But we need to get to the writing first because holy shit. Oh my god. Actually, yeah, let's get this because the writing, we're gonna be here for like 10 minutes for the writing. Let's get to the cinematography. Yeah, so this movie in general, like we said, was supposed to be bad, and it looks terrible too. This movie looks like a YouTube video, but not a YouTube video that came out now. We're talking like 2006 YouTube video. Like, this movie is horrible in terms of cinematography. I mean, you don't believe a single thing in this movie. All of the characters do the grossest shit possible, and it's not even like appealing to watch. Like, if you're someone who has like a shit fetish, which there are people who there are definitely people who do have a shit fetish or some sort of weird fetish or something like that, even you will still find this movie probably disgusting, because every disgusting thing you could possibly think of that you've ever seen in your life is crammed in this movie. And it doesn't mean that that's a good thing. Maybe on paper they thought, oh, this movie is going to be great. It's gory. It's disgusting. That's what people love. That's not what makes a good movie. It's disgusting if it needs to be, but it doesn't. Disgusting humor does not work unless there's a punchline. This movie has no punchline. There is literally a scene, and I can't believe this is actually a scene in this movie where Janet is, and I'm not lying, this is word for word exactly what happens. She's sitting on the toilet. She's taking a shit. Ronnie comes in butt-ass naked, mind you, like literally like dick out, butt-ass naked, brushing his teeth, staring right at her, saying, "I like to watch you pee." I'm
That's
not
no
joking.
joke,
That is
though.
an actual line in this movie. Those words came out of this dude's mouth. I don't know how he said that, but it came out of his mouth. And that is the kind of dialogue that we have in this movie. Honestly, that dialogue sums up this entire fucking movie. Things like that just completely upend this movie from being anything impactful, any sort of deep message, which I'm pretty sure, I really feel like there was some sort of deep message here. I don't know what the fuck it could possibly be, but there definitely was some sort of deep message here, and they really did not get it right at all. But yeah, that really did not work in terms of cinematography. But let's get to Tony, because I'm done raging for right now.
Wow, the cinematography. This is really, really sad because, you know, Adam pointed this out, and I absolutely agree with him after watching this film. There's actually times where the cinematography is shot like a YouTube video. And you know what's sad? Most of the YouTube videos look better than this movie. Yeah. I do not know what they were thinking with the cinematography. You know, like, you know, sometimes with a low budget, you're not going to always have the best cinematography, but there have been some movies with low budgets that have proven to have really great cinematography, like Swiss Army Man. Like, that's a very low budget movie, but look how astonishing the cinematography was in that movie. So it's like for Greasy Strangler, there is no excuse for the cinematography to look this horrible. There really shouldn't be any reason.
Agreed. But Adam, what do you have to say about it?
The cinematography is some of the worst I've ever seen. I'm not even gonna lie there.
Oh yeah,
I agree. Oh, hands down, man.
Oh, of course. There's some images I definitely am not going to get out of my head. That's definitely.
Like, I remember when I first saw the trailer for this movie, like, I couldn't even believe this was a thing. Like, I was looking at it and I was like, this looks so cheap. And everything about this movie is cheap. Every little thing, not just cinematography, the effects too. Like, there's a scene at the end. No. It looks so cheap. Like what was the budget of this movie? Like $1? Like, geez, this movie is freaking
maybe 25 cents at most, probably.
Like, it looks terrible. It's just, it sounds awful too. Like, there's just nothing here. Like, awful.
Like since we're getting into spoilers and all that, there's a scene where Michael St. Michael's, you know, he's the Greasy Strangler. That's not a spoiler. He literally tells you, first of all, he says the most obvious thing. He kept saying that he's the Greasy Strangler. So he already said the obvious in the beginning.
Him for some reason.
I know. But no, what I was going to say very quick before you continue, Adam, was that there was a scene where there's a guy sitting in the toilet, and he literally pops these eyeballs out of that guy while he's taking a shit.
Oh yeah, we have to bring this up. The repetitive scenes in this movie.
Oh yeah,
there's so much things in this with repetitive scenes. Like, for example, this scene at a vending machine.
Oh yeah. Well, since you guys want to get into it, let's just get to the writing, because if you guys thought that we've been raging a lot, holy shit, do we have a lot to talk about. I mean, this is some of the most just out there writing I have seen in such a long time. And let's just talk about the fact that there are people that find this movie funny, and I certainly don't get it. I don't understand why you find this movie funny. You know, I'm not going to say that I think you should watch it. I'm not going to say that I understand why you find this movie funny. But the best way to describe this movie is as deadpan as you could possibly get. All the humor is extremely deadpan. There's a lot of, very deadpan humor, things like that. But I did not understand a single joke in this movie. None of the jokes made any sense whatsoever. They're talking about all these obscure things that really are completely meaningless. And there's so many scenes in this movie that are just people having a conversation about something that has nothing to do with the movie. There is literally a scene in this movie where people are, and Adam's going to talk about, where they go to a vending machine to get chips out of the vending machine, and they start talking about Ruffles and how great Ruffles are and how they love to wrap the salt around their tongue. And it's just like, nobody fucking cares. Just get to the movie already.
Oh, not to forget that they drag on the scene, like in that scene you're bringing up, there's this guy where he's trying to say potato, but he's saying it wrong. So he keeps repeating something like, well, where are these chips from? He keeps saying potato. Okay, where is this? Potato. And like he's trying to say potato, but he's saying it differently. It's all like, just get to the fucking point already.
Yeah, it was so bad, honestly. Like that's another example of how bad the humor really is in this movie. I mean, most of the humor is them repeating the same thing over and over again, which is funny if you're like a toddler and you're starting to learn to talk, then it's funny. No human being says the same thing as much as they say in this movie. Maybe they say it 2 or 3 times. Hell, I repeat myself a lot. Tony repeats himself a lot. We will very much agree with that. But we don't say the same continuous thing over and over and over and over again. It just gets annoying.
Oh, and let's not forget the fact that the father, probably 200 times at this point, keeps calling his son bullshit artist.
Yeah, that too. They constantly have this joke of saying bullshit artists, and it's like, no one's going to know what that is unless you actually look it up on Urban Dictionary, which I did after this movie. And yeah, it's what you think it is, but just get a different insult. Like, seriously, there's nothing else to say but bullshit artists? Honestly, I really do think the script was like 13 pages long. I really do think a lot of this was just improv, and they're kind of just like, all right, go for it. Just say the same thing over and over again because they really didn't know what else to say. And I don't blame them because the dialogue is terrible. But that is nothing compared to the plot inconsistencies because, wow, are there a lot of them. I mean, first of all, let's just get to the fact this movie's called The Greasy Strangler. And besides the fact that he's obsessed with grease, we really don't know why he is the Greasy Strangler. What is his purpose here? What is he really trying to do? How did he become obsessed with grease? I don't know. The movie doesn't tell you. All the movie does is show scenes of him going out in the night, killing, covered in grease, killing people for no reason. There's no reason why he's killing them. He just kills them. He licks the grease off their entrails, and he then goes back to his house where he then is completely naked, talking to this blind dude and trying to cover up the fact that he is in fact made of that he's in fact a Greasy Strangler. And that is all we get with this character in this movie. And apart from that, I mean, if you're going to call a movie The Greasy Strangler, you kind of have to develop the Greasy Strangler, but they just don't. All they do is just show that. And that in general, again, is it just shows how half-assed this movie is. And again, to me, just seems like the movie was only focused on how do we make this gross? Oh, let's just make this grosser. Oh, let's just make this better. Like, how does this get any? It just gets grosser and grosser and grosser. It's not really about, characters or plot. It's more just about let's just make the movie more gross. And again, to me, I don't know if you guys disagree, but that's not really what makes a movie. I don't want to see a movie that's just gross stuff. I want reasons why there's gross stuff going on, and that's not really addressed in this movie. And I think, Tony, you'll very much agree with me that when your movie's called The Greasy Strangler, you kind of have to develop the Greasy Strangler.
Yep.
Yeah, and they really don't take the time to do that, and it really is very unfortunate. So that, again, is a huge plot inconsistency that they constantly do. Now let's get to Janet, because like I said, Janet is essentially a sex object in this movie, and it's very sexist, definitely very sexist. I've heard people say she's a very sexist character, and yeah, she is very sexist. I mean, that's literally all she is. She doesn't do anything else. She's there to have sex with both of the main guys, and there's really nothing else she's there for. And Basically, you see her, she's completely naked in this, she's completely naked and things like that. And she goes on a date with Ronnie and essentially is turned off by him because he's being very creepy. He's saying very weird things to her. She is essentially turned off. But then halfway through this movie, suddenly her and I can't even remember his name because they're that bad of characters that I can't remember their names. Braden, there we go, Braden. They're having sex in this movie, and she's kind of unsatisfied. And for some strange reason, decides to go to Ronnie and then tries to have sex with him. And then they start this sexual relationship, and it comes out of nowhere. I have no idea how this happened. I don't know why Adam just left. I guess he's just that enraged about the movie.
Probably internet connections.
Yeah, probably. This happens a lot if you guys have seen the movie previews. But yeah, again, that completely is just, it's really weird character development. I don't know why they did this with her. And you literally just did the exact opposite of what this character was supposed to be. In the movie, she, at the beginning of the movie, she wants nothing to do with Ronnie. Why is she suddenly into him? They don't give a reason why. And again, just like everything else in this movie, they don't give reasons why these characters make these decisions. If there were reasons, then it would make sense. But the movie glosses over it. It just gets to the next gross thing. And again, that's not what makes a good movie. And it completely ruins a lot of the movie. And I'm sure you'll agree with me on that, Tony, if you want to talk about how terrible Janet's character development or lack of character development really is.
Oh man, this Janet character is so all over the place, man. Like, she really does go all over the place. Like, first she wants nothing to do with Braden, right?
Yeah.
He wants nothing to do with Braden. Then Braden tries to, show his compassion for her. They go on their date. All of a sudden, she loves him. But then Michael St. Michael's character tries to turn her on. And then I'm guessing the moment she gets turned on by him is once she's peeing in the bathroom and Michael St. Michael's just walks in there with his big fat penis just dingling. And, he's brushing his teeth. Like, really, brushing your teeth with your ding-dong sticking out is supposed to turn on someone. But for some reason, she got turned on as she was doing this while taking a pee in the toilet, and he's watching her taking a pee in the fucking toilet like, oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah, you're all mine. Oh, yeah. Like, her character goes so all over the place, and I don't even see why she was a character in this film. Like, this movie just goes in so many directions that sometimes your head hurts because you can't follow every direction at once.
Yeah, it's really all over the place in terms of character development. And it really does not care about the characters at all. But that's nothing compared to what ends up happening with Brayden at the end of this movie, because
oh my god,
what a fucking ending! Seriously, I mean, talk about a retcon. Really, honestly. This movie, we didn't talk about this. It's written by two writers, and you can very much tell because the first half is very, very different from the last act of this movie. The last act of this movie is completely different than anything else that we focused on. I mean, the movie up till then basically showed that Braden was somewhat normal. He was kind of the awkward one. He had a lot of problems. He wasn't very mature, things like that. And Ronnie was the confident, manipulative villain, essentially, of the story. And you think that's where this is going to go, but that's not what happens. We see basically Braden and Janet, they're having sex, and they're getting down to everything. And it's everything they want it to be. And we see that Ronnie's watching them. Instead of them being a little bit startled by Ronnie, they don't do anything. They're completely okay with Ronnie just being there. Now why, I don't know, but they don't do anything. They don't shrug a shoulder. They're a little freaked out, but they don't do anything. Ronnie then comes out as the Greasy Strangler, takes Janet, and this takes Braden for maybe like 4 minutes to realize that, oh, this is a problem. But rather than maybe go after his father, or I don't know, save Janet, because he literally just proposed to her right then and there. I'm not even joking. In that scene, he asks her to marry her, and they get engaged. Instead of going after her, he then says, oh, no, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the Greasy Strangler, too.
Oh, my God.
Where the fuck did this come from? Seriously. wanted to kill the Greasy Strangler. You said it 3 times in the movie. I'm going to kill the Greasy Strangler. Now suddenly you want to suddenly fucking be the Greasy Strangler. No, it just doesn't work that way. That's not how this works. You're either against the Greasy Strangler or you're for the Greasy Strangler. You can't be both. That's what this movie doesn't understand. You can only be one thing. You can't do both. And I don't know why this movie goes in the direction they go. And honestly, I don't want to talk about the rest of this. So Tony, just get to the fucking ending because I don't want to talk about what ends up happening.
What even happens?
Okay, so I'll talk about one part, Adam. You can talk about the ending, but okay, so after he gets himself in Greece, because after what Kevin said, he had proposed to Janet, but then the father comes.
Forgotten, by the way, they never talk about it again.
The father comes from under the bed, and he's like, "I forbid you," and all that. Even though the father's been getting it on with Janet, so then when Braden, you thought he was gonna go after Michael St. Michael's, like you're all like, okay, he's finally gonna kill his father because his father has been treating him like crap, and I don't know why he's been still living with his father, because all his father does is call him bullshit artist, and he annoys him. So I don't even see the point. So you think he would kill his father after him coming up with all the Grease, but no, people. Here comes the next part right here, the part that just made me lose all faith in this movie. I mean, I already lost faith in this movie in the first place, but guess what? He actually helps his father kill Janet, and then it randomly cuts to a scene where there's hearts. And from there, Adam could tell you what happened.
Okay, there's heart, and then they're sitting, they're trying to like connect and stuff and all that. A good father and son moment, yada yada yada. And then all of a sudden they start talking about fucking John Travolta for some reason. And then what happens is they say, who are they gonna kill again?
The dude who like put like Brain in this situation. I don't remember his name.
I don't remember this. This is how little we.
Yeah, that's how much the movie focuses on character. They briefly talk about things, then they just oh yeah, this guy.
Okay, so then they get up and say they're gonna kill this person, and they freaking go out in the woods covered in grease, and then they go around and go batshit crazy and start just freaking killing people. It's weird. I don't know what the fuck this ending was. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden these people with freaking guns come up, and then they freaking shoot their brains out, and then all of a sudden this like freaking like these like tinsels or whatever the hell come out of their brains. I don't even know what it was. And then
pretty sure it's supposed to be grease, because
I don't know what it was. And then with some of the worst freaking effects I've probably ever seen too. I'm just putting that out there. And then they walk out of the woods after their brains get shot out, and they survive. I don't fucking know how. And then the movie just cuts to black, and then it ends.
And that's the fucking movie. Like that is the Greasy Strangler in a nutshell. And yeah, so there's so many things to talk about with this thing. There's so many things wrong here. Let's just talk about the fact that they literally completely forget about Janet. Like, they kill Janet. They say, oh, she was terrible, when literally the entire movie, she was the object of their affections. I mean, Ronnie said that he wanted to be with her. Hell, like I said, Braden just got engaged to her in the movie. I mean, they completely forget about this stuff, and then suddenly they're against her. What? Again, just another example of how much this movie does not care about these characters, and it just feels like such an afterthought. Like, Janet really wasn't important. Honestly, I feel like Janet wasn't even in the original draft of this movie. They just randomly put her in here because, oh, we need more sex. We need sex. We need sex. Like, we need as much gross shit as possible. And they didn't know what to fucking do with her, so they just killed her. And then you get to the ending, though, and it makes no sense. These two are so against each other. This movie should have ended with them killing each other. That's where I thought we were going to go. I thought that these two were going to have a talk, they were going to kill each other, and that would have been the ending. I honestly would have been okay with that ending. I think that would have been the preferred ending in this movie. But no, they're going to be vigilantes together, and then they become like apes at the screen, and they're shaking a stick in front of you and acting like animals. I mean, that's not at all what I wanted this movie to be. Again, it completely ruined the rest of the movie for me. And the movie was already shit, but that just took it to a whole new level. And it's by far one of the worst endings I've seen in such a long time. And another horrible reason why this movie is bad. The score, we didn't talk about the score. They use the same fucking score over and over again. It's not original at all. It gets annoying after like 20 minutes. It's like the same, like, ba-dum, ba-dum, I don't even remember what it is. It's like some as indie as you could possibly get, but it plays over and over again. There's nothing else to it, and that's it with the score. And then you want to talk about the editing, Tony, because you want to talk about much of the mess this movie really is.
Well, I mean, there's not really much for me to say about it. Just that the editing goes all over the place. One place you're at this restaurant, but then another time you're at you're at the house and then the kitchen, and then you see Michael St. Michael's with Janet, and then you see the son crying over this whole thing. Like it's hard to describe it because that's just how messy this film is. Yeah.
So in a nutshell, guys, I think we pretty much said the Greasy Strangler is shit. It really is. It is absolute shit. This movie is terrible. I don't care it as a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. If you guys like it, fine. I understand why you like it, but in our opinion, this is the worst movie of the year, without a doubt, for all the reasons we just mentioned. It's horrible. It's one of the worst things I have seen. It is the worst movie I've seen since #horror. I will definitely say that. But Tony, you said you wanted to show your screen with the ratings.
Yeah, you give your rating. Overall, final thoughts before we give our ratings. I'll say that this movie really made me embarrassed to be a film lover. I mean, this is not why I love films. It has some of the worst writing I've ever seen, some of the worst direction I've ever seen, some of the worst acting I've ever seen. I may sound a little calm now, but man, when I was watching this movie, I was ready to punch.
He was raging
because, oh my goodness, I haven't been this angry, this horrified, this embarrassed watching a movie since last year's Human Centipede 3 final sequence. This movie is just horrible. And on my scale, I do 4 out of 4 stars. So it's gained the honorary rating, you guys. And I don't give this rating a lot. The Greasy Strangler is actually getting 0 out of 4 stars, which is obviously an F.
Yeah. This is a deplorable, infantile piece of shit. There is nothing good about this at all. Not a single redeeming quality. It's shit in everything about it is shit. The cinematography, the acting, the writing, every little aspect about this movie is shit. There's not one single positive to this thing. And I'm just surprised that this movie got some of the praise it got. Honestly, I can't even believe that a movie like this even managed to get even a little bit of praise. This is a disgusting movie. Everything's there for shock value. It's just shock value. That's all this movie is. There's nothing to it. And it's just terrible. Fuck this movie.
All right.
0 out of 5.
All right, I very much would agree. But overall, guys, very quick thoughts. This movie is absolute shit. It is one of the worst, disgusting things I have ever seen. I don't know how this idea could conceive into somebody's head, honestly. This is just such a dumb idea that should have probably just been like a 3-minute YouTube video. Probably would have been a lot better that way. But as a full-length movie, this does not work at all. I understand if you guys, well, I don't really understand, but if you guys like it, that's completely fine. But on my level, I am not bullshitting you guys. I know I've said movies are terrible, and I go back and I take back what I said. But this movie truly is completely infantile. It is just juvenile. It's disgusting. It's horrible. And I recommend none of you see it. I wouldn't wish this movie on my worst enemy. And I am definitely going to give this movie, I never give this rating, but it is a -0 out of 5 or an F-. This movie honestly might have killed me a little bit. I really, really don't know what else to say about this movie. Thank you guys for being here because I really could not do this on my own. I probably would have gone batshit by now. I already have gone batshit, but I would have gone more batshit if you guys weren't here. So thank you very much. Guys, don't watch this movie. In short, do not watch this movie. There are so many better things to watch. You know how I told you guys you were going to feel like you wasted an hour and 30 minutes of your life while watching #horror? That's nothing compared to how low you feel after watching the Greasy Strangler. Honestly, after watching this movie, you feel completely like you don't have a life. You feel like a changed person. There's so many better things to watch. And unless you have to make a top 10 worst list, which if you do, this is a must, definitely. If you're making a top 10 worst list, this is a must watch for that. But if you're just a casual moviegoer who just watches my videos and, you know, you watch them to get recommendations on movies, which I know a lot of you do, stay away from what all costs. It is as bad as movies can get. And don't watch it. It is fucking terrible. It's trash and one of the worst things that I've ever seen. Not just movies, one of the worst things I've ever witnessed. And I'll never be able to get out of my head. And an hour and 33 minutes that I will never, ever get back.
Amen.
But that's it for this rant, guys. Thank you guys for being here. As I said, very much enjoyed having you guys here. Check out their channels if you guys haven't seen them. I've done many collabs with them before for my movie previews and things like that. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for watching this video, who are still watching this video. I know this rant was very long, but I needed to go all out. I mean, you just can't talk about this movie without talking about everything that happens pretty much. You just can't talk about it without doing that. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I promise you guys, I hope at least, that my next video will be for something better than this. Please, God, I hope so. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.
Peace out.